Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're looking at a few cinemas that once stood proud in Suffolk and Norfolk. Although small in stature, they too deserve to be remembered. Details of them are sketchy, so I welcome comments below offering further information for posterity. We will kick off at Sheringham on the North Norfolk coast, a picturesque and popular small holiday resort, and we'll move on from there. The Regent, located at the corner of Holway Road and Cromer Road, the Regent Hall was built and opened in 1926 for live shows and concert parties. It was built by C.A. Sadler and Sons, who operated the Electric Theatre just 3 buildings along on Cromer Road. The Regent Hall became a cinema in 1930 and the Electric Theatre was closed a year later in 1931. The Regent was equipped with a British Acoustic BA sound system. The first sound film was Sunny Side Up with Janet Gaynor. The film was so popular in the launch of talking pictures in the area that it was sometimes referred to as Money Side Up. In 1938 it boasted a duosonic sound system. In 1940 the cinema was listed as having 600 seats, but 7 years later that number was reduced to 534. Now this is a rare photo of projectionist Bill Thirsk in the Regent's box in the 1940s. Very rare indeed, and my thanks to John Jarvis for the use of that photo. In 1947 admission prices ranged from 10p, that's 4p now, to 2 and 9, 13p, with 1 show nightly and 2 on a Saturday. The Regent closed as a cinema in December 1960. It was converted into an auction room, and in later years the auditorium was in use as Sheringham Social Club, which closed in September 2010. The front of the building remains in retail use. Now let's look at the Picture House, also in Sheringham. This was built as a town hall in 1897. It was later run as a silent cinema and it seated 280 people. When sound arrived, a sound-on-disc system was installed. The cinema was taken over by VE8 Cinemas Victor Harrison in 1930 and he immediately installed a new sound system and reopened with Canaries Sometimes Sing. The Sadler family from the Regent took over the lease from VEH and operated it until 1958. It closed in 1960 and later reopened as the Little Theatre, which remains to this day. As a point to remember, occasionally in the 1960s and 70s, films were screened there by Colin Aldous, who also operated the cinema in East Dereham in Norfolk as part of his CBA cinema circuit. Moving on, the Regal in Watton, Norfolk, 1937 to 1973. Opened on February the 8th in 1937 and was the first purpose-built cinema for the growing Bostock cinema circuit. The architect was J. Owen Bond of Norwich and it seated around 400 people. Now this Regal was identical in architect's plan to the Regal in Holt, built by Peake Vout and Sons of Watton. The manager was Peter Candor. Now the interior was the same as any other Bostock Regal that he built, including the one at Wyndham. The Regal in Watton closed in 1973 and was demolished in 1977. Now there are videos on this channel dedicated to the Regals at Holt and Wyndham and the county in Aylsham. By the way, as a point of order, Wyndham is actually spelt Wymondham. Moving on again, the Picture House in Harleston, Norfolk. That lived 1920 to 1962. Situated in Exchange Street is the entrance to what was once the smallest cinema in England. The original foyer leads through to the former auditorium, which seated just 178 patrons, and a raised area which once supported the projection room. memories of double seats and of assistant projectionist Ernie Thurston, a maltster by day and cinema projectionist at night. Mrs. Kenyon was the pianist in the silent days, and on the arrival of talkies, like so many others, she moved to the paybox. Mrs. Bates was the proprietress and is on the right of this photo. The occasion was a promotional stunt in the foyer, but we don't know what it was about. Now, when CinemaScope arrived, the cinema proudly advertised the system on its canopy, and it was on its canopy for the remainder of its days. Next one is the Regal in Framlingham in Suffolk. 1938 to 1965, it was situated at number 15, New Road in Framlingham, and it had 422 seats. The Regal Cinema was built around 1938 by the Bostock Cinema Circuit. We don't know the opening date, and we don't know what the film was. The architect, though, was J. Owen Bond of Norwich, and this plan had the larger two-storey front brick section with the projection on the entire upper floor. In the smaller single-storey front section plans, the projection room was just 3 feet higher and incorporated off the foyer. This Regal had a 21-foot wide proscenium and was equipped with a British Acoustic BA sound system. It was closed around 1965 and was converted into a workshop and storage by 1975, and it was in use as a commercial vehicle depot. This lasted for some time, and the Regal was demolished around 2011, and housing has been built on the site. The Playhouse Cinema 1914 to 1970 was located in the port and resort town of Felixstowe in Suffolk, at the corner of Hamilton Road and Cobbold Road. The Picture Playhouse was opened in July 1914. It was blessed with a rather wonderful frontage with leaded windows and a mock balcony window above the entrance. The whole building oozed style and made a statement that simply said, "Inside there is luxury." The auditorium had 600 seats in stalls and balcony. In 1929 it was equipped with the British Thomson Houston BTH sound system, and by 1933 was known just as the Playhouse Cinema. The last projectionist who worked there was Henry Lazel, and he worked there until it closed. The Playhouse Cinema duly closed in 1970 and was soon demolished and replaced by a rather bland, generic, red brick and glass shop premises. Now, in what you might call a change to our advertised programme, we're going to have a look at the Coliseum, located in Galston-on-Sea, just south of Great Yarmouth in Norfolk. The Coliseum opened on August Bank Holiday 1913 with The Mysteries of Paris. It seated 1,000 people on one level, had a 26 feet wide proscenium, and there was also a dance hall and a cafe attached. Now, 4 shops were incorporated into the facade either side of the entrance. This was once a popular option, as not only was there a rent coming in from these premises, but it also greatly reduced the council rate level of the cinema. This idea was used by many cinema owners right up to 1939. The Coliseum was purchased as a family business in 1931 by Douglas Attry, an electrical engineer who arrived in Galston to wire Filmland Cinema. This coincided with the arrival of talkies. The architecture of the cinema was drastically altered in 1937 to align it more with the newer cinemas that had been appearing in the Art Deco style. During the Second World War, the Coliseum saw many foreign servicemen utilising the cinema, mostly Poles and Czechs. In 1945, Douglas Attry died, and his son, Douglas Jr., took the reins. During the 1950s, there were matinees on Mondays, Thursdays and Saturdays starting at 2:30. On other days, performances began at 6 p.m. Saturday morning children's shows were always popular. The Christmas children's matinee was particularly so. The manager dressed up as Father Christmas and all the children were given a gift of nuts and sweets. This was discontinued, though, in the late 1950s. At Easter, there were egg matinees. The entrance fee was an egg, an ordinary egg, with all the takens given to the hospital, who probably would have had scrambled eggs for days. Douglas Attry Jr. maintained the Coliseum as the resort's most popular cinema for over 40 years and managed to outlive the modern Palace Cinema just a short distance away. Closed on the 10th of January 1970 with Tony Curtis in Monte Carlo or bust, it was offered for sale as a going concern, but there were no takers. It was sadly demolished to make way for a shopping precinct which still bears its name. Well, that's about it for now. I hope you enjoyed this one and the change to the advertised programme. Until next time, take care of yourselves and see you soon. Ta-da.